All right, on example number 17, this is note 7.3, and we're actually on the back of the notes. This is worksheet 7.3. We're on the back of the notes today, and we're doing 17 through 26 as examples that go with your homework. So at the top of the back of your notes, it says b to the 1 over n is equal to the nth root of b. So remember in class, today we talked about the little n, okay? That n is called an index, and it's going to be asking us a question about what's underneath our radical. All right, so using 17 and the fact that we know that the bottom of the fraction, which is going to be the 3, the denominator, it's going to become our index. So we're going to write that little number called our index on our radical, and then the 8 is going to go under the radical symbol. And then if they're asking us to work this out, this problem says, what times itself 3 times is 8? What times itself 3 times is 8? And that answer would be 2. That's one of the numbers that we're going to try to memorize. Okay, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Example 18, we're going to write a little radical symbol. The bottom of the fraction is a 3, so our index is going to be 3. We're going to put the 125 underneath. And that problem now says, what times itself 3 times? That's what the index is asking us. What times itself 3 times is 125? And the answer to that is going to be 5. Because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. Number 19, 1,296 to the 1/4 power. So because the bottom of your fraction is a 4, the 4 represents the index on the radical. So now the index is 4. 1,296 goes under the radical, and this is asking us what times itself 4 times is 1,296. So you may not have this one memorized. You're going to have to go to your orange sheet. This is one that you didn't have to memorize. We're just starting to memorize those this week. So if you'll go to your orange sheet and find the number 1,296, you're going to see that's going to be a 6. Because 6 times itself 4 times is 1,296. So I'm going to let you use your orange sheet, okay, on your quizzes, but there is a little section of numbers that you blocked off that I really want you to try to memorize. That's going to help you later on. So the 4th root of 1,296, or what times itself 4 times, the answer to that is going to be 6. All right, number 20, we're going to write our radical, 256 to the 1/4. The bottom of the fraction represents your index. That's your little number that is in the upper left-hand corner of your radical. 256 goes under your radical. Now this is going to be one that we're going to try to memorize. The 4th root of 256 means what times itself 4 times is 256. What times itself 4 times is 256, and that's going to be the number 4, because 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, 4 times, gives you the 256. So the 4th root of 256 means what times itself 4 times is 256, and the answer to that question would be 4. So the 4th root of 256 is 4. All right, moving on to the next set of your notes. Now, what happens if the top of your fraction is not a 1? If the top of your fraction is not a 1, then that's going to represent a power. Okay, if your power is 1, it really doesn't change your number. That's why we didn't have to worry about that in the first set of examples. Now, if the top of your fraction, that is your exponent, is not a 1, then there's a couple different ways that you can look at it. I prefer the second way, and I'm going to put a yellow box around the second way. This says the nth root, so n is your index. N is always your index because it's the number on the bottom. Okay, we're going to take the nth root of our base b, then we're going to raise it to the m power. You could also raise b to the m power and then take the nth root, as the second example is showing you. But again, I prefer what I've got in the yellow box. I think that makes the problem easier to work. You can do it either way, but the one in the yellow box is going to be a little bit easier. So we're going to look at the index first. That's the bottom number. So in 21, the bottom number is 3. So that's going to be the cube root put the 8 underneath. We're going to take the cube root of 8. We're going to do that first. Then we're going to raise that answer to the second power. Because 2 is the number on the top, it represents the power. So we're going to do the index first. The cube root of 8 means what times itself? 3 times is 8, and that is 2. And then we're going to raise 2 to the second power. 2 to the second power is 2 times 2, which is 4. Going to do the index first and then the power. So an example, 22, your index is your bottom number, 5. So we're going to do a radical symbol, put a little 5, put 32 underneath. We're going to do that first, so put it in parentheses. Then we're going to raise that to the number on the top of your fraction, and that's going to be your power 2. We're going to do our parentheses first. So the 5th root of 32 means what times itself? 5 times is 32. That's one of the numbers we're going to try to memorize. The 5th root of 32 is 2, because 2 times itself, 5 times is 32. So we're going to do a parentheses first, and then we're going to do our power. 2 to the second power is 4. Example 23. We're going to do our index first. It's the bottom number, so that's the square root of 81. Remember, we don't usually see that 2. It's really understood. If you don't see a 2, you don't see any number at all on your radical, it's an understood square root, but we'll put the 2 there just because it kind of follows along with what we're doing. The 2 is understood. If it were not there at all, it would be understood to be a 2, which means what times itself? 2 times is 81. And then again, the top part of your fraction is your power. We're going to do the square root of 81 first. The square root of 81 means what times itself? 2 times is 81, and that's going to be 9. And then we'll raise 9 to the third power. Now, you don't have that memorized, but you can use your chart or you can use your calculator there. 9 to the third power is 729. All right. The bottom of the exponent represents the index, and the top represents the power. All right, let's look at the last 3 examples. Still doing the same thing. In number 24, the bottom of the fraction is 3, so that represents the cube root of 64. Put that in parentheses because we're going to do the index first. Raise it to the second power. The cube root of 64, what times itself? 3 times is 64. That's going to be 4. And then we're going to raise 4 to the second power. That means 4 times itself 2 times. 4 times 4 is 16. Example 25. The 4th root of 256, we're going to do the index first, put that in parentheses, then you'll raise it to the top number on your fraction, which is the 5. The 4th root of 256 means what times itself? 4 times is 256. That's something we're trying to memorize. If you don't have it memorized yet, look at your orange sheet. What times itself? 4 times is 256. That's going to give us 4. And then 4 to the 5th power. That's a big number. We're trying to memorize it. That's going to give us 1024. Again, if you don't have it memorized yet, you can use your orange sheet. All right, and the last one. Our bottom number is a 2. So this is the square root of 1 over 25. We're going to do that first. And then we're going to raise it to the top part of our exponent. All right, what times itself? 2 times is 1 over 25. You're going to do the fraction the same way. You just take the square root of the top, 1. What times itself? 2 times is 1. That's going to be 1. Go to the bottom, 25. What times itself? 2 times is 25. That's going to be 5. So the square root of 1 over 25 is 1/5, because 1/5 times itself 2 times, or 1/5 times 1/5 is 1 over 25. So we did the radical first, and then we're going to raise 1/5 to the third power. So that's 1/5 times 1/5 times 1/5. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. All right, use these notes with your homework tonight. I hope that they help you.